Hi everyone, thank you for joining us. My name is Valerie Gonzalez. I'm a reporter here with The Monitor, and we are here with Mr. Arturo Guajardo. He is the Hidalgo County Clerk, and we're here to discuss his race. We're doing this in partnership with Futuro RGV, League of Women's Voters, and McAllen Citizens League. Mr. Guajardo, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for the invitation to be here.
You have been in office for a couple of years. I know that you've been with the county even longer. Can you tell me about that?
Right. I've spent the last 22 years of my life transforming a paper-based facility into what is now a fully automated digital environment there at the county clerk's office. I first started as a chief deputy in 1999. Was there for 2 terms under then County Clerk J.D. Salinas, and in 2006 I was elected to be the county clerk. So this will be my 5th term in office.
Okay. Tell me a little just about what the responsibilities are of the county clerk.
So we're like the official record keepers for the county. The county clerk position dates back to when Texas was under Mexican rule. There was an escribano for every county, which is basically the person to take care of all of the records. So what kind of records? We're looking at vital statistics, birth certificates, marriage licenses, death records, all the court records, civil and criminal and probate. And then we also serve as the keepers of all of the deed records, which are entitled the official records of the county. So all the land records dating back to 1835 are there in our possession.
Okay. Tell me a little bit about your background, some of your qualifications that have kept you in office.
So I graduated with a political science degree, a Bachelor of Arts in Political Science, and then I've got a Master's in Public Administration, which is kind of exactly what I do there. I'm administering a public office. So then with the wealth of experience that I've gotten there, I've dealt with legislative issues in Austin pertaining to the office. We've become the first county in the state of Texas to do e-recording in the land records, first in the state of Texas to do e-recording in the court system, the only county clerk's office in the state of Texas to have a recycling program. So we've ventured out into uncharted territory, if you will. So today I serve kind of as a liaison for other county clerks throughout the state that come regularly to our office and kind of see what we're doing in Hidalgo County so they can kind of do the same things in their part of the state.
And what are the responsibilities of the clerk as it pertains to elections? We did hear a little bit about that, but can you expand on it?
So in the state of Texas, the county clerk runs elections and the tax assessor collector does voter registration, unless there is an elections administrator. And in Hidalgo County, we have an elections administrator. So that position takes over all of the duties of elections. So our involvement in that is to hire the elections administrator or fire the elections administrator. That's pretty much the extent of our involvement.
And currently there's an interim elections administrator.
We just hired an interim because we were so close, and our former administrator just retired, Ms. Yvonne Ramon, after 12 years in the position, I believe it was. And we were so close to this upcoming election, we decided to just put her right hand as the interim, and then to give us more time to select the right person. It might very well be the lady that we hired to do the interim job.
Okay, I know she's been there for a while.
Yeah, she has.
So a lot of these responsibilities are about record keeping. Why do voters need to pay attention to this race?
Well, probably the most important thing that for voters to realize is that their property records are being kept at our office. And if somebody fraudulently comes around and says that they own your house instead of you, you could see how that could cause you a problem. Or they can come in here and get a copy of your birth certificate and claim to be you. So the records that we have in our possession are extremely important to the individuals in our community. Your birth certificate is extremely important to you. Your deed record to your house is extremely important to you. Your lawsuit, if you have a civil case, or your will that you're leaving behind, or your parents' will, all of those documents are really, really important. So we need to make sure that we're keeping them in the very safely kept and preserved.
Okay. One of the things that your opponent mentioned when we talked with her was she mentioned that you were absent in some of the commissioner courts meetings. Can would you mind telling us a little bit about that, what your thoughts are?
Right, so I have an employee that is assigned to the Commissioner's Court that keeps the minutes. It's not the clerk himself that goes over there, so my employee is there day in and day out. And the only reason that I would need to go to the Commissioner's Court is if I have an item that I need to present on. After the pandemic, prior to the pandemic, I made it a regular habit of mine to go in there every now and then, kind of sit there at the Commissioner's Court, but they do drag on for quite a few hours. When the pandemic hit, pretty much everyone went remote, and even the presentation parts were being done via Zoom. So now the new norm is for most people to just kind of watch from your computer in your own office, unless you really need to be there in person. And that is for the safety of both the Commissioner's Court and ourselves as well.
Yes, just from attending some of those meetings, I know that they run long, and I don't see all the department heads all the time, so I understand where you're coming from. In some places, the position that you hold is not an elected office, it is appointed. Can you tell us why it's this way in Hidalgo County?
It's, as long as I've remembered, this has always been an elected. I'm not familiar with where it might be an appointed position in the state of Texas.
You know what, I'm not sure if it was in local municipalities or
yeah, not in the state of Texas. To my knowledge, you either have a county clerk, a district clerk, or a combination clerk,
okay,
but not an appointed person.
Okay.
Yeah, that's always an elected position.
Okay. And is this one of the few times that you have an opponent for this position?
So this is the first time I get a Republican opponent. I've had Democrats in the past. Like I said, this will be my 5th term in office, and thanks to the voters of Hidalgo County, they've kept me in office. And I think it's attributable to the things that we've done. Like I said, we've done a lot of firsts in the state of Texas and things that we're proud of. One of the things that I'm really, really proud of is the official records that I mentioned to you earlier. We've got records dating back to 1835. When we're looking at several thousand volumes, and these are these large books that weigh 30, 40 pounds, we were able to put all of those in digital format. And what that gave us, once we completed that project, that gave us the ability to do a couple of things. First, to share a lot of that data in large quantities, large sections of data. Now we can send you a year's worth or 2 years worth of data, when in the past you had to literally copy page by page on a copier. We did over 900 million pages that we got into digital format now. That gave us the ability to provide all of that data to the citizens online for free. So you can literally go onto my website and pull down a copy of your deed if you need it, for whatever reason, print it at home at no cost to you. We're extremely proud of that, because nobody had ever done that in the state of Texas prior to us doing that. Now that we have done that, that gave us the ability to go ahead and preserve those original documents that people in the past would come in and flip through all the time. And we've got a project 10 years into it already, a preservation project to keep those books safe for the next hundreds of years, really. Now that people can access their records online, those books don't really need to be touched anymore, other than kept like in museum quality form there at the new courthouse. We're pretty excited.
I did see that building, actually. That office looks really nice.
We're getting close.
Can you tell me about what your thoughts are on creating a satellite office?
So we've had satellite offices before. I had a satellite office in McAllen that we had probably open for about 15 years. That was mainly servicing the lawyers and title companies that were doing a lot of official record filings, closings and real estate, things like that. But after we do everything online, once it was mandated by the legislature that you do all that online now, there was no need for the satellite office anymore. And again, all those services that we're providing online, the need for having a physical person at a satellite office kind of dissipated. So we're back all at home again.
Just also, I wanted to ask you about one of the other things that the opponent has mentioned in her campaign was that she wants to bring transparency and efficiency to this office. Do you feel that that is lacking in any way, or are there any plans to improve upon that?
Well, I don't know how much more transparent I can be other than putting everything online for free to the general public, something that had never been done. With regards to like Commissioner's Court as well, the Commissioner's Court minutes, we've got them all online. In the past, you would have to do a public information request if you were interested in a certain item on a particular meeting on a certain date. Today, they are on the internet. You can get them all day long, again, for free. So we have done quite the opposite of not being transparent. We have been more transparent than anybody has ever done there in Hidalgo County.
Tell me, if you're reelected, what are some of the plans, some of the projects that you're working on?
So the main thing is we want to finish that preservation project, that project that I just mentioned to you, which it encompasses a very tedious task of going page by page on those huge books. Say a book has 600 pages, it's completely taken apart. Each page is deacidified to remove all the human oils off of that page from people touching it over the years. And then it's encapsulated in a mylar encasing, and then it's put back together with a brand new leather binder and preserved in that fashion to where it'll last for another 500 years perhaps. So we're almost done with that. We're on the last 2 phases of that project, a project that, again, we started 10 years ago. And that is my primary goal as to why I decided to run again, because I wanted to finish the job that I had started.
Now, if I ask you what is perhaps the most important issue with your office and how you would address it, is this the main issue that you're working on right now?
I would say so, yeah. Again, that preservation project, that was the plan all along. When we digitized everything, it was so that we could offer all those records to the public whenever they needed them, but at the same time it would give us the ability to work with the bound records so that we could preserve them. So again, yes, that is probably the most important thing going on in our office right now, that we're almost at the finishing line.
Okay.
Yeah.
What are some of the complaints that you feel you've heard from the public and that you're working on addressing?
So I tell my staff when I swear them in, when I first hire them, that the way I will judge how they are doing in that office is by the complaints that I get from the general public. I have not heard a thing in the past several years. Things have been humming right along, and I think it's attributable to because a lot of the services that we have there in our office, or that we provide, we now offer them online, so they don't even have to come to the office anymore. Historically, the biggest complaint I would hear is, I couldn't find any parking, when they'd have to walk through to, get to the courthouse, and they're already getting there in a bad mood. So we eliminated that altogether, because they don't even have to drive to the courthouse anymore. And then during the pandemic, we, at one of our satellite offices, well, the only one that we have left, which is temporarily, it's just one block north of the courthouse, the old Robert Chevrolet building, we started a drive-through. So we made it even convenient to where they didn't have to get off to get whatever they needed. They could just go through the drive-through, and we're still using it today, and it ended up being a pretty good little tool for us and for the public. So yeah, no complaints, nothing that I have heard of.
Okay. No, thank you so much for addressing that, and thank you so much for coming, Mr. Guajardo. We appreciate your time. Now, you all have heard from both candidates. The incumbent here, Mr. Guajardo, is running for re-election. Thank you so much for coming, and this was done in partnership with Futuro RGV, League of Women's Voters, and McAllen's Citizens League. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for being a real trooper and hanging in there with your arm.
Good
Pleasure meeting you.
Likewise. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.